of this ever unascended system of exploitation, then, if we are ever to achieve actual free enterprise, just reward, and commensurable prosperity, we must understand all the improprieties of this criminal system, then, if we are to make ourselves so capable of responsible self-rule that we, the united people of the world, can ensure abatement not only of a wholly unnecessary artificial monetary failure, but also of all the monetary and political injustices which are otherwise inseparable from the events which impose this exploitation upon us. Only by clearly understanding these ever-related issues, then, can we not only avert failure immediately and even virtually without cost, by transforming this imposed exploitation into mathematically perfected economy. Only then, likewise, can we ever deliver to ourselves actual just reward and true prosperity, equal forever to our capacities and willingness to render production responsibly. The task of all history to now, then, was forever to unite over a fact of singular solution. The vastly plagiarized and compromised work and the present global initiative for mathematically perfected economy and absolute consensual representation, which we discuss in the present TNS radio programs, therefore, explained over 40 years ago, in 1968, not only how the present failure would transpire, but exactly how to solve and to avert both the present monetary and political injustices. Some 15 years later, in 1984, the models I provided the Reagan administration proved this thesis of inevitable failure, and even with exceeding accuracy, projected the very time of the inevitable failure by no more than borrowing back into circulation the principal and interest we pay out of circulation in servicing obfuscated, falsified debts to a purported banking system. These vital, still unrefuted 1984 models, then, which are in fact proven by an historic pattern spanning already more than 26 years, together with source code and exhaustive documentation of my original theses of inevitable failure and a fact of one and one only integral solution for 1. Inflation, deflation, and maldisposition. 2. Forever adverse systemic manipulation of the cost or value of money or property. And 3. For inherent, irreversible, and therefore terminal multiplication of artificial, falsified indebtedness, which of course is now manifesting in the present global failure, all of which were simultaneously posted to numerous public electronic bulletin boards. In fact, likewise, then, comprised the first online monetary reform presence, some 10 years before the official 1993-4 inception of today's Internet. Even in its original forms, then, this work disproved every recent pretended contending proposition of solution over 40 years ago. For from its very inception, mathematically perfected economy was a proof of singular solution. That is, from its inception, mathematically perfected economy was a proof that nothing else solves the categoric faults of pretended economy, and that nothing else solves the fundamental causes of the present artificial failure. These programs on mathematically perfected economy and absolute consensual representation are best negotiated in order, as previous material develops a vital background for what follows. Links to archives of this and previous programs are available at tnsradio.com under the category Mike Montagne and through the domain perfectedeconomy.org. Respondents can sign national instances of our worldwide mandate for mathematically perfected economy and absolute consensual representation at perfectedeconomy.org. This program is broadcast regularly at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 p.m. UTC, each Saturday, today on New Year's Day, January 1st, 2010, from TNS Radio, tnsradio.com, Tirnassar, Land of the Free. Original material copyright and trademarked by Mike Montagne. All rights reserved. This week's program will cover 3 topics. In each case, I will respond to recorded audio or written material, point by point. First is the lie of economy is perpetuated by Ben Bernanke in a recent 60 Minutes interview. Then as Ron Paul responds to the Bernanke interview. And finally, as Dennis Kucinich, together with a prominent plagiarist, now attempts to emulate my long-standing mandate for mathematically perfected economy and absolute consensual representation, claiming falsely himself to deliver just, sustainable economy, which in fact are not only my very words, but properties which are intrinsic to mathematically perfected economy and mathematically perfected economy only, as delivered only by our mandate for mathematically perfected economy and absolute consensual representation. The format of this presentation, therefore, will be to play or to read sequences of the subject conflicting material, in turn responding to each part as we can understand to respond from our theses of inevitable failure and singular solution. I will begin in order then with the 60 Minutes Bernanke interview.
Friday's unemployment number was a troubling surprise, up from 9.6 to 9.8%.
I'm afraid I'm already inclined to break in and comment here. Here, sitting mindlessly before our television sets, we could be easily convinced that this interview begins with a benevolent tone, ostensibly recognizing some probably irrefutable upturn in unemployment figures. But no reputable investigation into the matters here could possibly hold that the very well-known manner of reporting unemployment figures, in particularly in the United States at least, is itself reputable at all. That is, after a person has received unemployment benefits to the point of exhaustion of those purported benefits, they fall off the unemployment rolls, and so there's a tremendous amount of unemployed working force which is not reported, and purposely not reported, in the lies of the system, which here, as we see, actually conceal a fact of far worse conditions than the seeming benevolent tone of this interview intends to report. So the fact of the matter is they're beginning on the wrong foot to any person with their eyes open at all. We're not to hear the truth. We're even here responding to a minor uptick in unemployment figures, which in fact is balanced probably against tremendous numbers of people actually falling off the unemployment rolls. So we start with a falsehood, and we pretend to be sympathetic to that, and the interview is likely then to proceed in this very pattern. In other words, then, converse to the pretended tone of the interview. No reputable authority would continue in this pattern, failing to challenge the validity of obviously, purposely underreported, falsified unemployment figures, which themselves largely fail, purposely, to portray the true magnitude of present issues.
The economists who decide such things say the recession ended in 2009.
Lies, lies, and more lies then. For how can you say a recession is ended when unemployment is still on the upswing? And you yourself have prejudiced your methods of determining or identifying or recognizing that by purposely obfuscating the figures downwardly.
But this is the worst recovery the nation has ever seen.
So they concur. They as much as tell us this is a lie, going on as if it were not.
Ben Bernanke is concerned.
Well, can he be concerned? If he were concerned, would he preserve a system of exploitation? Or would he be open to the scrutiny of the system of exploitation, which can only fail us? If the latter, obviously and certainly, no legitimate question of the propriety or justice of the imposed system of exploitation would be excluded from the discussion. If he were a genuine representative of the people, if he desired to give us monetary rectitude, would he not himself then be asking the questions of the propriety of this imposed system of exploitation, which he needs to ask in order to serve us? Obviously, indeed, he would. So what are we saying here? That Ben Bernanke is concerned. What we're saying, what they're saying in this program, is that we want to convince you that he's concerned, although we, for 40 years, have only evaded these questions, which are necessary to answer to determine if indeed, in any way, this system can possibly serve us. So we're not going to see these questions because, in truth, what was just said to you is a lie. Is he concerned? If he's concerned, he's concerned only from the perspective of preserving the system of exploitation, which we will see in the interview is all that he's about to intend to do.
As chairman of the Federal Reserve, Bernanke has enormous power over the world economy, and he's used that power in ways that the world has never seen.
More lies. Of course, as it can be said for any unelected private citizen who neither deserves nor can wield any such power to our benefit, Bernanke can be said to have tremendous power, but not because of any leniency or potential to regulate. For he can only increase or decrease the circulation so long as it is possible to do so. Generally then, only by maintaining interest rates which make it impossible for a captive, hapless society to borrow itself into further involuntary servitude, as remains necessary nonetheless to maintain a vital circulation. Should he and the board of directors of this preposterous corporate vehicle of exploitation raise interest too high above what the hapless society can withstand, relative to the ever-escalating sum of artificial, falsified indebtedness to these mere publishers of the evidence of our promissory obligations to each other, then we fail all the faster as we borrow more periodic interest back into circulation,